Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm really excited to share with you a story that has happened actually earlier on in the week, and it's pretty dramatic. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of tea wrapped up in it, and I feel like sometimes the lessons that come out of these experiences and these stories can wind up being better than you anticipate. So I really want to share this with you, and to give you a little bit of background, earlier on this year, I was actually kicked out of a business program. I paid upfront in full for the time that I was going to be in that program, and I was anticipating a certain, I had an expectation about how things were going to go because of the way that it was marketed, and also because of the way that it was written in the information that I had received from the email. And when it came time to actually take part in things and to act on things, there was a missing piece, and I would present blocks to this coach, and I was not being properly coached through the blocks that I had. And I know this because now that I have my NLP certification, there is definitely a difference between a client who has a block and a coach who can work through that block, who knows what they're doing and who knows how to approach the block, versus a client who has a block and a coach who uses their story instead of using actual strategies to work through the block. Using your transformation is all fine and dandy, and it's not actually helpful to the person who's having a block, because that person needs to work through it, and you as the coach want to be able to provide them the right methods and the right tools so that they can work through it effectively. So I had presented a block to this coach, and we hopped on a very short call, and instead of walking me through a single belief change or a switch pattern or a parts integration or a flip the script technique, what we wound up doing was talking about her story, how she transformed her business. And that's not particularly helpful to another person because, yes, okay, anecdotes and metaphors, yes, they can be helpful. However, it's not removing the client's block. And that's the difference. So I wound up taking her advice from that 15-minute call, which it was to start sharing my story, start opening up and sharing my story, because nobody wants the factual, black and white factual evidence. So instead of sitting back and instead of finding myself in this place where I continue to create educational content, I decided, okay, I'm going to start opening up and I'm going to start telling my story and sharing my story. And my story, if you've been tuning into my podcast for the last year, you know that I have had some pretty horrible coaching experiences. You know that I was put through the ringer when it comes through some of these programs and some of these sessions, some of these groups that I was in. I didn't realize at the time, and now looking back, it was definitely not my favorite decision. However, no matter what, I was a person who at the time thought it was a good decision, and I believed it was going to get me where I needed to go. And little did I know it was getting me where I needed to go. It wasn't the way that I had anticipated, right? The universe had something in store, and I got to learn what the universe had in store for me. So all of this to say, I've had several coaching experiences that were less than stellar. And so that was the one thing that I wanted to start opening up about and sharing my story about. And what happened was she took it personally. I did not mention anybody's name in that thread that I posted, and she insisted that it was about her, and it was not. And so this past weekend, like fast forward now, okay, she took it personally, she kicked me out of her program, and she wound up refunding me the money. And so at the time, because she refunded me the money, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to say anything, because if she's kicking me out of her program for not even mentioning her name, I am terrified of talking back to her, because she's going to hold the money over my head and I could use that money. So I waited until the refund went through in full, which was about 3 to 5 business days, because that's typically how long refunds take when you go to do it with the bank and with the credit card companies, etc. So what wound up happening was I never responded because I wanted to get the money back before I knew what was going to happen. So fast forward now to June, and here we are. It was June 21st or 22nd. I opened up my phone after I put my daughter to sleep, and the first video that I see is a video of my thread, and it's a screenshot of my thread, and the hook was something along the lines of, I had to kick 2 people out of my program this year because they weren't doing the work. Now, if you know me, I do the work. I was a part of an NLP certification program. I did get certified. That was 3 separate exams, a 20-hour immersion weekend, and 178 video modules in the portal, of which I completed 164. So for someone to turn around and say that I don't do the work was a pretty personal attack, especially because I pride myself on success. I pride myself on achievement. I pride myself on being like someone who puts in the work to get the result. And when I listened to this 60-second video, I blew a gasket at the time. And what wound up happening was I created a response video, and it was about 8 minutes long, and I didn't end up posting it. I did not end up posting it because here's the reason. What happened was, originally when I saw that video, it triggered a fight or flight response within me. One where I didn't feel safe to share my story. Now this happened both times. One where I didn't feel safe to share my story after I got kicked out of a program. And also one where now I've created a response video and I'm contemplating whether or not I should post it because it's an unsafe feeling and an unsafe vibe that I'm carrying into this posting of this next video because of what happened prior. So this unsafe feeling was one where I felt the propagation of dislike and hate and judgment through a video released onto the internet. Now, I could easily go down to the same level that this person did, and I could call her out for defamation like she did to me. And what I've learned through the last however many days that it's been is that I actually am not going to. And here's why. Because if I were to be bothered to get involved in her petty drama, then I'm technically not keeping focus on the bigger task at hand, which is to build my business to the point that I want it to be. And I want to leave a legacy for my daughter and for my family. And for me to allow myself to get wrapped up in that drama would be synonymous with me leaving behind a legacy of being caught up in petty drama. That's not the legacy that I would like to leave behind. I will absolutely be a bigger person, and I absolutely am at a bigger place because what I'm actually doing, I know I can help people with my NLP sessions. I've been watching, I have one person who I've been doing market research with, and she's just signed 2 clients for her group program she launched earlier in the week. And I know that I am going to get the business of my dreams because I know I can create a transformation for someone within their life, within their business that is long lasting. Okay. And what else happened throughout all of this was I used the tools in my toolbox. I surrounded myself with an incredible community of high vibe women who are living at cause and doing the real work on and within themselves. I used hypnosis, I used subliminals, I used their support to support me in standing in the gain on this situation compared to where I was last year and I have emotional regulation now. And last year, if I were to see this video, I would have lost it. I would have created a response video and I would have kept going. And while she's propagating an unsafe environment on social media, I am propagating one where it's safe and a message of encouragement to continue on using the right methods and the right strategies. That, and I have no time for the baloney that she is talking about, because when she says no BS to me, because the brain doesn't understand negatives, it's actually full of BS. And with all of this to say, while I might have it out right now, when I created that response video was purely coming from a place of encouragement for her to go get certified to help people with their mindset, because I know how important that is for her, and I know how that's a sticking point for her. So if it's such a sticking point, I would like to see her, especially because she claims she's making so much money, I'd like to see her go and get certified and actually start to make changes in people that she wouldn't have been able to do and is not currently able to do at the capacity as someone who is certified. Now, in addition to all of this that I just relayed out for you, the last thing that I want to express is that I walked myself through a self-coaching session around this very topic. And I asked myself, what is it about this situation that makes me want to post this video? And part of it was because I felt like the story wasn't really being told fairly or justly, because it was being twisted and manipulated to her advantage. And so part of it was the fair representation of the story. And the other part of it was that I felt like I had to prove that I was a better person, a better coach. And if I had to prove by posting a video that I was better, it would be playing into my ego. Whereas if I did what I am setting out to do, and if I really wanted to create change at a very foundational level for myself and for other people, then I would go and I would follow the rules of NLP, and I would implement and practice them in my life by taking that simple concept and not posting that video. Just the sheer fact of not posting that video is me proving to myself that I am living within the tenets of NLP, because I am taking responsibility and I'm focusing on the thing that I am looking to call in. I'm focusing on calling in more clients for myself. I'm focusing on building my business to a point that I know is where I want to go, 6, 7, 8 figures. I know that by doing this, I am focusing on, I'm putting my blinders on more or less, because if I were to post that video, I'm taking my blinders off and I'm allowing for her to get to me. And if I'm really truly living at cause, and if I'm really truly implementing these tools and strategies, then what that means is that I really truly have the ability to emotionally regulate myself and to practice that around this circumstance. Now, if you've listened to this podcast episode, I'm sure like a part of me is kind of like, oh, well, I kind of did the same thing, only instead of doing it in a video, I did it in a podcast. It's actually a little different. And the reason why is because it took a little bit more time for me to come to the revelation of implementing, like proving to myself that I am actually living proof of the implementation of NLP and the NLP strategies. That took me a lot longer to recognize. And just the fact that I waited the amount of time that I did before coming to the conclusion and to the realization of I have nothing to prove, because I don't need to prove myself. The proof is in the pudding, right? So that was like the whole reason why I wanted to share that in this episode, because if you struggle with proof, which I'm sure there are a lot of us who do feel like we need to prove something. We need to prove ourselves. We need to prove that we're right. We need to prove that we're enough. Then what I want for you to take away from this episode is that the proof is in the pudding. You are already enough because you are here. You are already doing what you're doing. You are already changing lives just by simply the words that come out of your mouth sometimes. So consider that when you go into your next session, your next sales call, your next piece of content. The proof is in the pudding. And that's that's the biggest goal out of this podcast episode. And the last thing that I want to say is that if you really wanted to make or break a certain level in your business, you would pay attention to doing only those things. You would pay attention to refining your craft. You would pay attention to refining your messaging. You would pay attention to refining the clients' results that you got, the transformations you got. You would not be paying attention to petty drama. And to me, the cancel culture that runs rampant in those types of videos is more telling of her and of how she wants to leave a legacy on the world. To me, when I consume that kind of content, and even when I look at this entire situation as a whole, it's okay for her to do not so very tasteful things. And that's the legacy that she's going to leave behind, a not so very tasteful one. Whereas I want to leave behind a legacy of pure success and pure ambition and pure resilience and pure persistence and pure support. I went through another exercise. This is a different podcast episode for a different day, but I want to mention it because it's so exciting and so exhilarating. I went through a brand archetype exercise earlier today, and it was incredible going through that experience because it reveals so much about you and who you are and why you do what you do. So I'll be sharing that in another episode soon to come. I want to remind you about the fire sign audio bundle. I'm actually going to be incorporating the earth, the air, and the water signs as well. I'm going to change it up a little bit. So it's going to be 2 audios for each sign so that each sign has 1 subliminal and 1 hypnosis. Now, yes, there will be all 4 signs. And if you listen to the fire, let's say you're a Virgo, right? Which means you're an earth sign. If you listen to the fire sign, you will start to see results in the houses which you have fire signs. So for example, my 2nd house is in Sagittarius. If I start to listen to the fire sign audios, my 2nd house is going to start to see some momentum, some movement, and some exhilaration forward. So there's a reason why I'm touching on all 4 elements, because I want for you to get a well-rounded experience between all of your elements in your birth chart. So I'm going to be changing it a little bit from the fire sign audio bundle to the star sign audio bundle. Okay. The star sign audio bundle, literally like what's written in the stars, right? How cool is that? The star sign audio bundle is going to be made available at the end of July so that you can download it. You can tune into those subliminals, tune into those hypnoses, and start seeing results in your business, in the areas of attaining clients, and also in the areas of putting out bomb content. That's a huge talking point for me right now, and I wanted to incorporate that into the star sign audio bundle. So I'm really happy. I'm really glad you stayed and you tuned in. I'm so happy you listen along. I would love for you to share your takeaways on social media, and don't forget to tag me in it. I know I say don't and you're gonna forget, so I'm gonna say remember to tag me in it. And I cannot wait to talk to you very soon.